I don't know if you know this, but when you set up your profile correctly and you start to use it, you actually get placed at the top of Google. And for
Mm,
some, above
awesome.
even their websites or other social platforms.
Mhm. Hello, Nikki. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So,
Good.
you are our LinkedIn growth queen. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. So let's start with what is LinkedIn, right? Where the LinkedIn
Yeah.
side of it is a networking platform. Actually, I do trainings every morning on once a week, and we just talked about privacy settings. But here it is. LinkedIn is a networking platform for you to build your business. You know, people have this idea that it's only for job search, and it really isn't anymore, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you are, in a industry where you're speaking or where you're coaching, or even if you're authoring books. I have clients who've actually done physical products and sold them through LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is actually much bigger than people understand. And so it's a great place to come to share, to give value, and to introduce yourself and create your positioning, your authority positioning, if you will, with your personal branding, right? So
Yeah.
that's what LinkedIn is, and that's kind of what I do. Help you build all those pieces to create that presence on LinkedIn and attract your client. I love the term attracting marketing because you want it to be so that people come to you. Now, yes, there's work involved, right? There's work to get that set up. But initially, it's setting up your initial platform, which is like that billboard you have on the freeway that you see as you drive down the freeway and you get catch just enough to understand that it might be something you need,
Hmm.
right? Or the next exit, get off on the next exit for Starbucks, right? We need those Starbucks when we're taking those road trips. It's exactly the same way that I think of LinkedIn. You want them to stop and get an idea that they need to reach out to you or read more about you to learn more about how you're going to solve their problem.
I love that. So, Nikki, have you always been on LinkedIn or what has kind of been your business journey?
The business journey. Wow, that's a fun story. So, I actually have a recruitment and staffing background. So, I was in HR and recruitment for years, 20 plus years,
Wow.
20 plus years, where recruiters go when they snoop everybody on all the platforms, right?
Yeah.
So, LinkedIn actually came in around 2008 when they were here long before that, but I didn't get into LinkedIn until 2008. And as a recruiter, you were always looking at people's profiles to see if they fit into your roles. That's how that started. And before I even became an entrepreneur, I was teaching my coworkers, my managers, my candidates from different positions. Like I've done everything from internal to external to contract to independent recruitment. So I was always teaching somebody how to leverage LinkedIn. And it came to me in about 2016. I had been working for this company and they laid me off because I had a disagreement over, and it nothing to do with my performance or anything like that, but I had a disagreement about leaving early on the day before Thanksgiving, right? This was the silly things that corporate does, right? So I left there. When I left there, I told my husband, I'm not going back. I'm tired of all the politics, the pushback, having to manage up because my managers aren't capable of doing what their job really is. And so I had decided I wanted to leave. And I told my husband, I don't want to do that. I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe career coaching. I don't know, but career has been always my thing. So maybe career coaching. So I paid for this coaching event just a couple hours from where I live. And I paid for the VIP so I could be in the room with other people close knit, right? So that we could have conversation. I went to this event. Oh my God. I went into this event. I walk in the door and I'm like, ooh, it's my first one. So I didn't know what I should be expecting. This was one that was very holistic. We did all these things, these exercises that were extremely uncomfortable with strangers in small groups. And when come down to the first day that we had the lunch at the VIP, and everyone goes around the table and they talk about who they are and what they're doing and how they can help their clients. And it came to me, and I was so nervous, like my heart's beating. Oh gosh, what do I say? What am I doing? Right? I didn't know. I left my company and had no idea what I was going to do. And so they come to me, and right off the top of my head, I'm a career coach. I teach you how to leverage LinkedIn in your job search. And I look around the table,
Wow.
and their faces just blanked out. Oh, she's totally not for me. Because, right, they're entrepreneurs. They're looking for leads. They're looking for clients. They're looking for referral partners. They can't see how that could apply to them because
Hmm.
I'm looking at it from a different standpoint, right? I'm looking at it from a careers coaching, and they're thinking, I'm not looking for careers,
Yeah.
right? So, okay, that night I went home, I was like, well, that was a fail. Oh God. Fingers crossed that the next day and the day after, was a 3-day event, goes well. So we get to that point again, more uncomfortable exercises, and and we're in the room, everybody's going around the table. And this time I thought, you know what? Why can't they just leverage this LinkedIn for leads? And I just use
Yeah.
different language. And that's exactly what I did. We were around the table, and I said, I help you leverage LinkedIn in your lead generation. And oh, the lights go off and everybody's all
Yeah.
perked up. Oh, really? Leaning in. Tell me
Mm.
more. Right. And so that was great. Right. I left there, that event. I left there, actually left there with clients. And I didn't have a program in place. I wasn't even sure how I was going to teach this. I had no idea what I was doing, but that's how it started.
Yeah.
That's how it
Yeah.
started.
Yeah. I love that. I love it because you said that you didn't have a plan. It just kind of happened. You put yourself out there and then ended up with a client. And so
Mhm.
then you just kind of figured it out as you got started.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I built the programs. I left with several clients. I also, from recruiting and the side of recruiting, you have sales also involved in that. So I
Yeah.
knew that I needed to reach out to these leads that I had captured while I was there. And so I did. I put them all on my little list. They got phone calls from me, they got emails from me, they got me calling them multiple times and offering them opportunities to talk to me about their LinkedIn.
Mm,
I didn't really know at that point how to make it more enticing.
mm,
So I had such a variety. I hadn't found my real client yet. I didn't
mhm,
know. And so I just was reaching. Okay, I'm going to put
mhm,
myself out there. I'm going to do all these things that are uncomfortable. I'm going to get my feet wet so that I can see how this will work.
mhm.
And as those clients came in, I built those LinkedIn programs, and they went through them with me 6 weeks at a time, 2 programs per person they got into, right? They moved into 2 different programs over time. And eventually they moved into business coaching. So they were with me for more than a year.
Wow, that's fantastic.
I know, right? And
Yeah.
can it always happen like that?
Yeah. Yeah. But this is why I love it. Okay. I love it because you took, sometimes I call it like messy action, but it's really just like just being vulnerable and putting yourself out there with what you do know at the time. And I think like we can get so stuck in making sure that all of our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed and everything's perfectly put into place. Our program's all put together, right? Before we launch, before we get into business and start telling people. And your story, and actually, that's kind of a little bit of my story too. Like getting out there and just like, okay, well, this is what I know, and I know I can help you with this. I don't know how exactly, but we're gonna figure it out, right? And as you started working with them, things started coming together probably pretty easily at that point, do you think?
Yeah, they were actually when we got into the first, I had them sign a contract. They paid me for their money and all this
But
stuff,
wait
right?
a minute. Did you already have
What?
a contract or did you have to make
I
a
had to
contract?
make one.
See? Yeah.
I had to
It's
make
like you
one,
didn't
yeah.
have to have that at the beginning. You
Hmm.
got it when you needed it. Okay, continue.
And yeah, once they started coming in, we did the onboarding call and then we scheduled a time for them to start actually learning
Mm,
and building it. And I actually put them into workbooks. So we got one coaching call was like 20 to 30 minutes initially in the front end, setting them up and getting them prepared to do the workbook. And then they got an accountability call at the end of that same week
mm,
to make sure they were on track.
yeah.
Right. And we did that throughout the process. And the last, it was a 6 week program. So on the fifth week, I started preparing them for the next stage, right? Are you going to move into a new stage with me or are you done? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is so much, and I shouldn't say so much, it's so important that we realize that the life of the client can be very long or it can be very short, all depending on how you prepare them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, all depending on that one thing. And when we go back to the side of the imperfect action that we talk about how I just kind of put things together at the end, I have so many clients that are so stuck on, I have to have the fonts match, or I have to have the this, that, I have to have the right graphics, or my hair is not perfect. And the truth of
Mm-hmm.
the matter is, when you take the action, people are not necessarily looking to see that you have hair off or that you didn't wear makeup, or that your documented produced correctly, or that your tech's not working. That's my problem.
Mm-hmm.
Tech. They're
But
not looking for that. They're looking for the results. And
yeah.
if we could get out of the way and give them those results, help them to achieve them, we'd be much more successful.
Mm. Yeah.
And so would our clients, right? So would our clients because they're looking to get that result, but we're
Right.
so caught up in ourselves, selfish, and
Mm-hmm.
we can't get out of the way to do it and give it
Mm-hmm.
to them.
Yeah. There's an element of pride there where we feel like we have to have it all put together. We have to have a website right at the beginning. And on our website, we have to have all these things. We have to have a calendar. It's like the things that we think we need, we only think that because we see other people that have been in business longer that have those things already in place. But
Mhm.
but we don't have to have all those things in place when we get started. Just like the contract, it was like, well, you didn't have that ahead
Mhm.
of time. You created it, or wherever your contract came from, when it was needed. And you're right, like we get in our own way, and
Yeah.
when we get in our way, then we're also in our potential clients' way of being able to work with us and have the success that they want.
I know, doesn't that
So
just kill you? That makes me
yeah.
so upset when I hear my clients talking about it. Or, even I'm a part of another larger business program and I coach into their program as well. And so their students come to me and they talk about, well, I haven't done this because this is not working. And I'm like, well, you know what? The honest truth is you need a calendar. Go get a free Calendly calendar if you're really going to worry about it. You can use your Gmail account. You don't need anything else. You can send documents through your Gmail account. So
Yeah.
you don't even need a landing page. You can
Yeah.
create a form through Google Forms
Mm-hmm.
and send those instead of building a landing page,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many ways to do it without having all of the things. And the part of with that is that everyone's always looking at how somebody who's been doing it for a lot longer, who's has a bigger audience, who's been in the business, how they look today, not how they look when they started.
Right.
Be in the moment you're in your business and
Mm-hmm.
enjoy that. Stop trying to strive for something that's just not ready for you.
Yeah. So when it comes to your journey to success, okay, so we know a little bit now about kind of taking that imperfect, messy action. But what do you think has been one of the best things that you've implemented for your business growth?
It comes to down to mindset.
Mindset. Mm,
It's mindset. If you don't have a strong mindset, if you don't believe in yourself and your skill set, I have an appointment later today. I'm going to tell you a little story. I have an
yeah.
appointment later today with a client. And when she came to me, she was very excited, very excited. And as we started moving through the program, and we're working on a LinkedIn and branding side for her, And as we started moving through the program, she's plowing through all these assignments. And I can tell that she's not having feeling with the assignments, right? She's just doing the work to get it done.
Mm.
And she needed a break. So she took a little time away and we just came back from that break. We're just restarting. And the first call she had with me right after that restart was to tell me that she doesn't want to do this. And I asked her why, right? I asked her why.
Wow.
And this is a common statement when you give somebody something who is uncomfortable with doing, but is essential to their business. For her, it's an outreach, right? Outreaching, reaching out to people and having conversations
Mhm.
from the standpoint of being an introvert, right? And this is very uncomfortable. And I get that. I get that. But if you don't bring somebody in, you can't move your business forward because you have nobody paying you. So you have a hobby, right? So we have to bring them in, new people all the time, new iterations, because they're going to be at different stages all throughout the process to move them forward. And when we got on the phone call and she said to me, I didn't want to do the calls or the outreaches, the conversations. It makes me so uncomfortable
Mm.
that I can't do it. And I said, well, let's do a different exercise. Let's change that because that is I'm reaching out to strangers. Let's move to having conversations with friends and family and reaching out and having those different conversations. I always relate things to your spouse, your best friend. You're going to go to the movies and you guys are not on the same page with the movie, right? So you
Yeah,
have to have that conversation,
good.
and there's a little bit of negotiation and sales in that. Right? Let's find a movie we can both enjoy, right? And that's part of the problem when we're reaching out and having conversations is we don't think of it as just a conversation. And there's that push and that pull, right?
Hmm.
So this is why it's so important. With her, I'm pretty sure she's going to tell me she hasn't done any reach out and she hasn't talked to anybody in the week and a half since the last call because she's put it off. And she's going to tell me she's done. We're going to have that conversation. And this is why I think it's so important because that some imposter syndrome sets in
Hmm.
because you doubt that you really have the ability to do the things you're trying to tell people that you can do because you think you don't have the social proof. You think you've never done it. And that's not true. We've done all the things we do in our businesses in our life somewhere along the lines.
Right,
Sales comes right as a mother. You have children who go to the grocery store with you and they are just relentlessly asking for something.
right.
You're, Come on, I know, mom, you said no, but I'm like, you said no 15 times, but I'm going to go like 25 more times of the please let me have it. I just want it. I need it so bad. I need it. I need it. All the things they're selling you. Why do we think that no from some stranger has more value than our child saying, I need, and you say no to them? They didn't stop because you said no.
Mm-hmm.
You get firm that, but they don't stop. They just keep going. And if we thought of sales in the same way, connecting, if you want to change the word, change the word, connecting to your prospects the same way that we connect or our children connect with their parents as they pester away, trying to browbeat you to give them whatever it is they're looking for in the grocery store, right?
Yeah, yeah.
it, it'd be so different. You wouldn't have that fear of asking. They'd say no to you and you'd be like, okay, no problem, move on to the next.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm not here to force you to do any of this. I'm here to encourage you. If this is right for you, this is a perfect time to do it. If it's not, maybe it's later.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so when it comes to mindset, I mean, this word gets thrown around all the time, right? Um, but we are in complete agreement that mindset is it really is everything.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so if somebody is asking about like, okay, so you're saying mindset, but like, how do I change my mind? Like, what advice do you have for them in changing their mindset? How would you help somebody?
So if somebody's talking to me about wanting to move their mindset from one area to the next, well, let's
Hmm.
use weight loss, right? It's
Sure.
a common one everyone
Yeah.
uses, right? I don't want to diet, but I need to lose 20 pounds, but every pound feels like 50 pounds instead of 1 pound.
Yeah.
And so then we don't do it because we're so worried that it's going to be so much, right? What if you actually wrote on a piece of paper the thoughts that came up when you said, I have to lose weight? Right? Everything that's coming up. And by the way, lots of times people can't think of what's coming up. They can't hear what their brain is doing. And
Mhm.
that's a great thing, right? That's a great thing. We don't hear it, but we are listening, whether we know it or not. We are listening. That's why our subconscious is not doing the things we want it to
What
do,
to do?
right? Your brain is trying to keep you safe, even when it's wrong, right? So if we wrote down on a piece of paper, diet, maybe your one main thought, and all the things that come up when you think of that word, diet, or the things about that, and you sat and looked to see what your brain is really showing you,
Hmm.
right? You can actually move yourself from that, 1 pound is 40 pounds to 1 pound is just 1 pound.
Yeah.
Right? So it's really looking at your thoughts that
Yeah.
come that come and they actually they're like kind of building blocks blocking you from your success, right? So if you just take the one block out, maybe everything falls down and now you have freedom.
Yeah. Now you have freedom to build it however you want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I always tell them, let's look at your thoughts. Let's look at what's happening and let's take each thought and we'll go through a process to understand what's happening when you have that thought.
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
Because all of our actions are based off of the way we think, the way we feel, and what we're going to do as far as action in those areas, or maybe
Hmm.
not do, right?
Right.
Do or not do, those are all actions.
Hmm.
So if we looked at that and we figured out what's happening and we slowly move our minds, our brains to think that what we want for success is easier to achieve when we understand what's happening in our brain and how we can consciously move our thinking.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. And also on that note, you kind of mentioned imposter syndrome earlier. Um, how important it is, like our brains look for patterns and well, they love patterns, right? They feed off
Mhm.
of it, feeds off of it and tries to keep us safe by following this
Yeah,
comfortable pattern.
yeah,
But sometimes when we try something new or we're trying to change our mindset, we don't have these patterns already established. But you had mentioned something about looking at ways in other areas of our life that we have done this. And I call that evidence, right? So looking for the evidence that proves this new mindset is really important
yeah.
too. So we add that to our thoughts and changing our thinking. It's like, wait a minute, I have done this before. This is the evidence of that. And then if we continue to accumulate that evidence, like even like journaling and writing it down, right? So we can come back to it like, oh, yes, I am great at sales because I have done this and I have done that. Or I am a good speaker because I did a live video last week and I didn't throw up or whatever. But like
Yeah,
every little evidence is so important in helping our brains to create new patterns and then to find comfort in those over time to
mhm,
then be able to show up the way that we want to show up. So it's
absolutely.
yeah, it's very cool. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so you are the LinkedIn growth queen, which I
Mhm.
love that title. I think it's so appropriate for you. You are very wise in all that you do over there. um so could you give us like maybe a 1, 2, 3 approach? Like if somebody was coming to you and you had 5 minutes to tell them about growing on LinkedIn, what would kind of be that 1, 2, 3 approach for you?
It's really simple actually. It's positioning. So it's setting up your profile so that it's optimized to attract, right?
Yeah.
And then actually having the content that shows value and can actually be that, that additional billboard, right? They've stopped. Now they're at they're at the Starbucks and they're looking at the menu, right? I know I use these weird analogies,
No,
but
I love it. It's great. It's great. Good to
yeah,
relate
so
with.
yeah, exactly. I try to make it that way too because everyone comes in and looks at this LinkedIn and they think, "Oh my God, it's just so complicated. It doesn't seem, it's not friendly feeling. I don't feel like I can just share." And that's not really the truth. So it would be the profile, making sure your profile is optimized. I always suggest that you have it SEO rich because that helps your movement, and then the content side of it, so making, introducing the value that you can share, and then it's the conversations, the conversion side of it,
Yeah.
right? Those are the three things that make your profile, make your LinkedIn really work for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
and you mentioned SEO. So do you feel like LinkedIn is very much SEO friendly in terms of like people are on there, they're searching for something, and so if you have your profile set up well, they're gonna find you more likely?
yes, I don't know if you know this, but when you set up your profile correctly and you start to use it, you actually get placed at the top of Google, and for
Mm,
some above
awesome.
even their websites or other social platforms,
Hmm.
right? So why wouldn't I want to enrich that with some SEO and really bring people in and attract that? Google and I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you, but Google and LinkedIn are kind of like best friends.
Yeah, I love that.
They are. They're kind of like best friends because they're both search engines, honestly. You
Mm,
can do a lot of deep dive searches on LinkedIn, very similar to Google. However, it's based on people versus everything else, but
right.
you can do that on LinkedIn. So that's why when your profile is set up correctly and you've started to utilize it, you get placed differently than other platforms
Mm,
on a Google search. I'll tell you, I stepped away. I can't even say years ago. My husband was sick, right? And so I stepped away from everything for a while to take care of him. And when I returned, like I really didn't do anything with my LinkedIn profile during that time. I might go in and every now and then look at it. I never was posting. There was just nothing going on. And I left my profile a good amount of years. I'd say like 5 years. And when I came back, I started to re-engage and things like that. But throughout the period of me not being on LinkedIn, my profile never moved from the Google search.
wow.
Yeah, so
Wow.
that's why I'm saying it's so important it's not the same as other platforms where you have to fight the algorithm and the crowds and oops, sorry.
Ding
And
ding.
all the busyness that you have on other platforms.
Yeah.
You can really essentially disappear for a good amount of time and still be able to pick up where you were.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. That's
Yeah,
great.
me too.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's awesome, Nikki. So, okay, we always like to end our interviews with a question that either comes from an audience member or a
Okay.
past guest. Are you open to answering a question for us?
Sure, I love questions.
All right. So your question is, okay, what habits or practices held you back early in your journey that you now avoid?
Oh, what habits or practices that I need to avoid, huh? That I avoid now.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's the habit is that I don't try to spend too much time on things because then I will go down a rabbit hole,
So
right?
good.
Right? I'll go down the rabbit hole with that perfectionism piece. And so I don't do that anymore. So that's the habit that I have created over time. Because I know myself, right? I know that if I start looking at it, I could do this for hours looking at graphics.
Yeah.
Oh, do I want to put that? Oh, I didn't know it did this. And where'd my time go?
Right.
So it's a time waster.
Hmm.
So I don't do that anymore. The habit is moved from spending all the time on trying to figure out the graphics or figure out the tech. If my tech's all messed up, everyone's going to tell me. So I'll figure out from there when it's messed up,
Right.
and I'll just keep moving forward. Like I did not start my business with perfect anything.
Right. Yeah. I call that creation mode. And it's like suddenly we feel like we're working because we're doing all this fun stuff, creating whatever the creating
Yeah.
is. And then at the end of the day, we're like, oh my goodness, I didn't have a conversation with one person. I didn't get one new lead. I didn't send out one new friend request or whatever the thing is, right?
Mhm.
And so we spend all this time feeling like we're working when genuinely we're just having fun creating. We're not
Yeah,
really working.
exactly, exactly.
So
That's
good.
another thing. That whole time management piece is a whole new thing for us, right? When you go from a corporate standpoint where everything is so structured because they got all these timelines to follow,
Mhm.
to it's all yours and it's all your time to decide and
Yeah.
delegate and to disperse things as you work
Yeah.
through it. You really have to sit down and block out times specific to what you're trying to get done and get those things done
Hmm.
versus and if you go like if say for I know I get excited.
Love
So
it.
for example, you have a project you're working on, you set 30 minutes for it, right? And now it's 35 minutes, 36 minutes, 37 minutes. You just stop yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You need to have that's that self-control.
Hmm.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay, I worked on it as much as I can for today. That's all I allocated. Working on the next thing because it's true. If you do spend the time on all the things you're like just down that rabbit hole in, you won't get the other things necessary done that you
Right.
need, that you won't get those things done. They'll just kind of, you'll start at 8 o'clock in the morning and be like 11 o'clock at night, still trying to figure out where did your time go.
Yes. Oh man. Yeah, I love that you mentioned time management. So important. Self-management. Another friend that I was talking to recently called it time stewardship, like stewarding your time well. It's so true.
Oh,
And when we are leaving corporate world and we're starting our own thing, especially when we're doing it at home, we
yes.
like have to decide, okay, what time does our workday begin?
Yep.
And how am I going to start my morning? And do I need a place of work that's separate from the rest of the house? What is closing time? And just like being true to that time that you say, if I'm going to get off at 5 o'clock, I need to get off at 5 o'clock,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so often we're so like focused on whatever it is we're doing that we don't even realize what time it is.
Right. Yes.
Right.
So true, especially when we're in that creation mode.
Hmm.
All right, Nikki. Well, thank you so much for joining today. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me. I love talking to you.
I know, I do too. So, if you're not a part of our community, of the productive and profitable community, make sure you come because Nikki is always showing up in there with incredible tips and value. And she's been a regular in some of our free coaching calls. So you can learn some more wisdom from her there. And of course, you can check all the show notes for ways to get a hold of her. With that, Nikki, we'll talk soon, okay?
All right, sounds good.
All right, bye. The
Bye.
Productive and Profitable channel is all about helping entrepreneurs grow wildly profitable businesses without sacrificing time with their families or the things they love. And we do this through top-notch trainings and community. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notifications button so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you're ready to dive deeper and take your business to the next level, be sure to join our free business community over on Facebook. Simply visit teresataylorcoaching.com and hit the community tab. We can't wait to see you over there.